Is it really fair to call a unit best in class when it's the only unit in that class? Ushabti Greatbow for the Tomb Kings are quite a unique unit, being the only ranged monstrous infantry, monstrous missile infantry even, in the game currently. That should change with the release of Total War Warhammer 3 whenever the Ogre Kingdoms are released. They have some units that are basically ogres carrying cannons. So yeah, we should see that someday, but for the time being, we've got Ushabti Greatbows here. This is a replay from a subscriber. He's on the Hell Pit map, facing off against the Skaven. Thematically enough, got a couple of Screaming Skulls, very good against the Skaven, not only for the leadership debuff, but the damage is nice against weapons teams as well. Ushabti Greatbows, of course, two of them. Cetra the Imperishable leading the way. Nehekara Warriors, a couple of Tomb Scorpions. And, yeah, Nehekara Horsemen. The Nehekara Warriors is an interesting pick as well. Probably we'll talk about these guys eventually, but a 40 melee attack with 3 chevrons, 33 weapon strength means they'll cut through Skaven chat very efficiently. They've also got this Unyielding Will, of course, from Cetra. On the Skaven side, currently getting bombed out, we've got some Gut Runners with Poison, supported by Wolf Rats. In the center, Plague Priest, Plague Seer, Grey Seer, even, with Lore of Plague, up on a bell. Hell Pit Abomination, the Thing, Regiment of Renown. Got a Packmaster on a Brood Horror. Newly nerfed, some newly nerfed Poison Wind Globadiers, still very strong. Bunch of Skaven Slaves, Clan Vulcan's Tail Slashers, Clan Rat Spears, Rat Ogres, you get it. So, Ushabti Greatbows are great because it's kind of like a unit of bolt throwers, right? Their damage is comparable in terms of missile damage to certain monstrous infantry melee damage, like 124. It is basically exactly a 10-second reload, so this is their missile damage more or less. Dreaded 13th spell does get used here. The explosion actually does a little bit of damage to the Ushabti Greatbows, but moreover the Storm Vermin summon are going to try to avoid that. But they're not necessarily directly anti-large missiles. They are armor-piercing, but just due to the nature of the beast, they're relatively accurate, kind of single bolts. They do function very well against monsters. You do see them primarily in that role, although, of course, they're also great against cavalry and infantry. Honestly, anything you shoot, Ushabti Greatbows will do a great job. They also have armor-piercing and melee, no anti-infantry, but up to 40 melee defense with Cetra nearby means that they're not as squishy as other monstrous infantry. Obviously, 90 armor as well. Meanwhile, this very chaotic center engagement. The Packmaster been focused by the Ushabti Greatbows a little bit here, and Screaming Skulls, like I said, going after the weapons teams. This is a very ideal use case for them. The Scorpion holding up a whole bunch of units here, including a bunch of Rat Ogres, so we'll see how that goes. So one unit of Ushabti Greatbows does get caught up, though, and killed. Not before racking up some value, but Cetra also coming in from behind. That allows him to get a beautiful engagement on the thing here, and you can see it's already lost a ton of HP. This unit of Ushabti Greatbows has been focusing on it point blank, so let's get in for some cinematic shots of these guys putting their work. They have awesome animations. I just love the big, like, skeletal archer birdmen things. I don't even know. This game is awesome. Sometimes you, like, stop and think about a sentence you said, and then you realize how silly everything is. But Thing getting rounded off. Balance power still very close, though. There's a lot of Skaven troops potentially going to be coming back from route. The Bell still fully operational. Packmaster's regenerating and has healed up some of his Rat Ogres, I would imagine. We check in here on the healing cap space. Let's see. Yeah, a little bit of healing on that unit of Rat Ogres there. I mean, I guess he has the AoE heal. That's right. Forgetting, haven't played enough Skaven recently. But as he kind of fights melee with this Rat Ogre box, they will be able to sustain. And once these Skeleton Spears, if they can get rid of them, you know, it'll be a lot easier for the Rat Ogres to operate. Get some more supporting units back in the fight with the Ushabti Greatbows. This one unit has pulled back. The one benefit of being an undead unit is they continue to fight and fire, especially while crumbling. Using that ranged attack means that if you can manage to disengage them, they'll get free and get working, but oh man, Rat Ogre's coming in for the overhand punch, a little bit of jumping headbutt action. Ushabti whips his sword out and bops him in the teeth, and the Rat Ogres then switch over to this other unit of Ushabti here. But yeah, I mean, they have decent enough melee defense for monstrous infantry. Rat Ogres are definitely more of an offensively focused, with charge bonus and melee attack, low defensive stats in terms of armor and melee defense, but the melee Ushabti summon comes to the rescue. Their dual-wielding sword brethren going to rise from the earth here and prepare to finish off those rat ogres, protect their bowman brethren. And the Screaming Skull, all the while providing that little bit of extra leadership debuff on top of the fear. This one has been completely shut down here, but Gutter Runners with Poison, they have pretty good damage values. They do a pretty decent AP, and they're relatively accurate as well, especially compared to something like Night Runners, but there's a lot of monstrous presence left, and you can see the bounce power as a lot of these units terrify and shatter. Does start to take a turn for the worse. Cetra doing a number again on the Packmaster. Does look like he brought the Blade. So, you know, whenever that's active, Cetra will obviously deal fire damage and just absolutely smash the weak to fire clan Molder units, which have that standard regeneration trait. So now it's just the Bell left. I'm going to be doing some more videos about the Tomb Kings. I actually realized I have not featured enough of their units yet. They're one of the factions that I've kind of been neglecting a little bit in this unit highlights series. So Doom Scorpion's one I plan on covering relatively soon. I mean, I've covered like some chariots and I think the skeleton horseman archers and some different things, but especially more the constructs, because that's what everyone likes to see, right? I mean, skeletons are all well and cool, but have you seen this, you know, giant scorpion with a skull face or whatever? Fun stuff. Big thanks for Kataro for sending that one in. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Katani's a player I've seen around before. Relatively tough map to get forced into against this type of a build, but honestly, it was reasonably close at the end of the day. The Ushabti, this one unit of Ushabti though, 1200 damage value, paying for themselves quite handily. The other one didn't quite pay for themselves. They do a pretty decent amount of damage, but yeah, they kind of were a little bit harder to protect there, although the Screaming Skulls also help do a great job in terms of the kill totals. You can see kind of the difference here with this build is the Screaming Skulls are meant for anti-infantry, whereas these guys are meant for anti-large, right? And you can see that reflected in the damage values with low kill totals. And the fact that the Thing really didn't do much, very much did not pay for itself here. And likewise, you know, the Packmaster did not also generate much value. The Rat Ogres did a little bit better, but still, all this monstrous presence was pretty heavily countered due to the fact he was able to protect those Ushabti Greatbows. And that is a big if, you know, Tomb Kings have some reasonable defensive tools. They can sometimes struggle against a very concerted rush to protect these guys. But anyway, going over the rest of the battle here, not too bad for the Gracier Lord Plague there. Skaven Slaves, the cost nerf to them I do think was justified, although I know a lot of Skaven players aren't necessarily super happy with it. But Poison Wing Globes, likewise, also not overly oppressive here. They did run into some problems, sure. But the Tomb King side, Cetra doing some awesome damage there. And obviously, shot to Greatbows we saw. The Scorpions don't have to do a lot. They're kind of just tank damage and terrorize. Don't get that much damage value in this particular battle. They can, certainly. But Nehakara Horseman, awesome performance there. Nehakara Warriors, also awesome performance. I actually really like this pick against Skaven. Not a unit you see too often, but Spears doing a great job against the Rat Ogres and so on. So yeah, unique unit. And one that is a staple of Tomb Kings in most matchups. I mean, there's not really too many matchups where Ushabti Greatbows are necessarily a bad idea. In some of the against some factions where you might face concerted cannon fire, they can sometimes get outranged. You know, for example, up against the Dwarfs or the Empire. But at the same time, there's a school of thought that if you have enough Ushabti Greatbows, like let's say you have 4 Ushabti Greatbows, which I believe is legal, I'm not 99% sure, then you could potentially come in and, like, if an Empire player, say, only brings 1 cannon, like maybe the Hammer of Witches, and then all of a sudden, you know, they're severely outnumbered, you might be able to move in and win the artillery fight. Empire player really should push forward anyway, but kind of depends on how heavily you scale into it. But I mean, their range is comparable to some artillery pieces, 255 range. It's a little bit on the shorter edge when it comes to artillery comparisons. But I mean, you look at something like the Hellblaster Volley Gun at 290. Yeah, the Dwarven Flame Cannon is also relatively short range. So yeah, it is kind of a 230 range on the Flame Cannon. So it is kind of in this lower range of artillery, but it is within that range, certainly. And in terms of missile damage here, like I said, they have kind of equivalent missile damage strength to what a lot of monstrous infantry would have. So, I mean, you think about, like, Ushabti themselves, the dual-wielding variant, they don't necessarily have that great a weapon strength, but they do come with an extra anti-infantry bonus, +5. Really not a lot to write home about. The Ushabti Greatbow is actually exactly the same melee stats, other than that loss of anti-infantry and a little bit lower weapon strength overall. So in reality, when you stop and think about it, these guys actually, for being a missile unit, have pretty good melee stats, especially considering how powerful of a missile unit they are. Like, if you just think about, again, there's no direct comparisons here, but just thinking about other kind of 1100 cost missile units, right? You've got, like, Way Watchers, for example, who are now a little more expensive, 1200, but again, you've got this heavy AP missiles, but their strength comes from them staying hidden. They have some speed, 40 speed there. Ushabti, though, faster, 54 speed. I mean, granted, there's only 9 of them. But in terms of units kind of in this cost, they have some of the best ability to defend themselves. Really, you don't want them fighting in melee as much as possible because their ranged attack is so strong, you want to be taking advantage of that. But certainly, they're not going to die as easily to a unit of, like, Doggos, for example, or whatever else as the Way Watchers will. Way Watchers obviously shoot 360, so it's not a exact apples-to-apples comparison, but yeah, in terms of monstrous infantry, like Minotaurs, for example, right around that 110 mark, right? We look at Trolls, I think, are in the 80s range, I want to say. 100 range, yeah. Seems about right. 160 for Chaos Spawn. But yeah, Beastman Minotaurs, like 110 weapon strength. So it does hit more or less, the Ushabti's bow does hit more or less like a monstrous infantry. In melee, 104 armor piercing, only 18 base. Really, really great AP damage. Yeah, what else can I say about them? They're a staple of Tomb King's play, and you will see them plenty playing against them. If you're playing as them, they're a tool that you need to learn how to use. You learn how to... It's a little strange. It's like an artillery piece that you can kite with, and it also has reasonable defensive stats, so there's definitely something to learn there. But anyway, it is. I will say, because it's such an apparent unit, people will prepare for them. You know, whenever you're playing as Tomb Kings, you need to understand that your opponent likely will expect Ushabti Greatbows, and so you need to, you know, figure out a way to protect them. Anyway, I'm rambling now. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.